For page 8 and 9 notes, we will be multiplying and dividing fractions. This is a little bit easier than adding and subtracting because you do not need to have common denominators. So some of the things to look at, first of all, you need to write your mixed numbers as improper fractions, just like we did with adding and subtracting. Simplifying, you don't have to do until the very end, but you can check to see if you can simplify the actual fractions or diagonals. Then you multiply straight across. So when you add or subtract, you don't change the denominator, but when you multiply, you do. You have to multiply the two top numbers together, the two numerators, and the two bottom numbers, the two denominators together. So everything should change. And then you might need to simplify. So for this first one, multiplication, I'm just going to go straight across first. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Then we need to simplify by dividing both of those by 2. So 2 over 5 should be your final answer. Now, if I rewrite the problem, you can simplify along the diagonals, or a lot of people call it cross-canceling. So you can see 1 and 5 have nothing in common, but 2 and 4 do. 2 goes into 2 once, so that becomes a 1. 2 goes into 4 twice, so that becomes a 2. So we just have 1 over 1 left. So 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 5 is 5. So you can get 2/5 that way. So you can multiply and then simplify, or you can simplify first and then multiply. Number 2 is the same thing. If I go straight across, 1 times 3 is 3, 9 times 5 is 45. You can divide both of those by 3. So 1 over 15. You also might have seen that you can simplify the 3 and the 9. So if I rewrite it, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times. So 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 5 is 15. Again, you don't have to do it both ways, but just so you can see the different ways. Number 3, we have 1 over 7 times negative 1 over 5. So when you're multiplying a negative, it's not both the 1 and the 5. It's just the whole fraction. So 1 positive and 1 negative make a negative. So your answer, you could just right away put a negative. 1 times 1 is 1. 7 times 5 is 35. So negative 1/35. Number 4, you'll want to change this to an improper fraction. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11 over 5, times 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5 over 3. So again, if you multiply straight across, you're ending up with 55 over 15. Both of those can be divided by 5, so we get 11 over 3. You also then could have 3 and 2/3 if you have it as a mixed number. So again, 11 over 3 or 3 and 2/3, either one of those is the correct answer. Maybe you noticed that these two can be canceled out to ones. So then right away you would have 11 over 3. Go ahead and pause it and see if you can do the last two on your own. For number 5, we need to change this to an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4/3, and then don't forget to put the negative sign back in front, times 1/2. So again, if you go straight across, we have 1 negative and 1 positive, so our final answer is going to be negative. 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. That simplifies to negative 2/3. Divide both of those by 2. Again, maybe you saw here, 2 goes into 2 once and into 4 twice. So then you would have had your negative 2/3 right away. Number 6, we leave negative 2/3 times negative 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14/5. Multiplying a negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 14 is 28. 3 times 5 is 15. So 28 over 15 is your final answer. Notice you can't simplify this and you can't simplify this. So therefore you won't have to simplify your final answer. If you have it as a mixed number, you would have 1 and 13 over 15. Now all of these you can do with your fraction button in your calculator as well if you want to check your answers that way. As you'll see here, dividing is almost the same. You still are going to write your mixed numbers as improper fractions. Number 2 is the big thing. We don't divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. Now this says kiss because you changed the division to multiplication, and when you write XO, that means kisses and hugs. So kind of a silly thing. What I like to think of is keep, change, flip. So you keep the first fraction, whatever it is. You have to change the division to multiplication, and then you flip the second fraction. So keep the first fraction, change the sign to multiplication, flip to get the reciprocal for the second one. Then it will be just like the multiplication problems we did up here. So for number 7, we change it to 1/6 times 5 over 1. I like to use the dot instead of the X for the times sign, but whichever one you prefer is fine. 1 times 5 is 5, 6 times 1 is 6. 5/6 is your final answer. Number 8, keep 3/4, change the division to multiplication, flip, so -2 over 1. Straight across, we know we're going to have a negative because we have 1 positive and 1 negative. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. Those both can be divided by 2. So -3 over 2 or -1 and 1/2 would be a final answer. You also could have seen this to simplify to 1 and a 2. For number 9, we're going to start with -4 over 7, change to multiplication, then flip to -9 over 8. For our answer, we know that a negative divided by, or negative times a negative, or divided either way, is a positive. 4 times 9 is 36. 7 times 8 is 56. Those both can be divided by 4. So if we divide each by 4, we get 9 over 14. Down here. Again, hopefully you could have seen the 4 and the 8. 4 goes into 4 once and into 8 twice. So right away, 1 times 9 is 9. 7 times 2 is 14. Number 10, we need to change this into an improper fraction. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 1 is 21 over 10. Keep the division so you don't change it until after you have changed it into an improper fraction. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is -14 over 5. Don't forget to bring the negative along. Now we change it into 21 over 10 times -5 over 14. Again, you can multiply and then simplify. I'm going to go ahead and simplify right away. 5 goes into 5 once and into 10 twice. I also know that 7 goes into both of these. So 21 divided by 7 is 3. 14 divided by 7 is 2. My final answer is negative. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. So -3/4 would be your final answer. For number 11, again, change it into an improper fraction. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is 30 over 7, and don't forget the negative, divided by 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4/3. So now we can go ahead and flip it, -30 over 7 times 3 over 4. The only simplifying I can do is 2 goes into 4 and into 30. So the 4 becomes a 2, the 30 becomes a 15. Again, if you would rather multiply and then simplify, that's fine. Our answer is going to be a negative because we have one negative and one positive. 15 times 3 is 45. 7 times 2 is 14. So you can leave it as negative 45 over 14, or that's the same as negative 3 and 3 over 14. For number 12, again, changing it to an improper fraction, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11 over 4, divided by 5. So you want to think of that as 5 over 1 since we need to flip it. So anytime you have a whole number, you can always write it over 1. So this changes to 11 over 4 times 1 over 5. Straight across gives us 11 over 20. For the story problems, again, you'll have to decide whether you should multiply or divide, since that's what these notes are about. So the Statue of Liberty is 305 feet tall. A nearby building is 4/5 as tall. Find the height of the building. So you know you either multiply or divide those two. One thing you should realize is that your answer should be smaller than 305. So in order to get it smaller, we have to multiply 305 times 4/9. It's 4/9 as tall. So you take 4/9 of means multiply, 305. So we can type that in, 305 times 4 over 9. If you want to think of that over 1, you can, but you don't need to. You can just multiply it. And we should get 135 and 5/9 feet tall. For number 14, Sarah has 27 3/4 feet of wire to make beads. If each necklace requires 1 2/3 feet of wire, how many necklaces can she make? So if you just think about drawing this out, you have this long wire and you have to cut it into sections. So anytime you're cutting into sections, that means you're dividing. So we need to take the total, 27 3/4, and divide by 1 2/3. So 27 times 4 plus 3 gives us 111 over 4, divided by 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5/3. So 111 over 4 times 3/5 gives us 333 over 20. Again, that doesn't make sense, so you need to change that into an improper fraction, or into a mixed number, and that would be 16 13/20 feet of wire. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's how many necklaces. So we can't make 13 out of 20 necklaces. So our answer would be 16 necklaces. You can't make a fraction of a necklace, so she would have 16 necklaces that she could make.